Hi, this is Dustine from Two Lucky Cats, and I'd like to talk to you about some of the new tools that you need to do hand sewing. Often having the right tool can give you a better result and make it easier for you to get the job done. Of course, you'll need a ruler, and the ruler that I like to use is a quilting ruler. And not only can you measure like the length, but you can also measure the width with something like this. The other good thing about it is it's transparent. So, for example, if you wanted to cut a shape out with a design in the center, you can center it with this particular ruler because you can see through it. These rulers come in a lot of different sizes. Unless you're going to do quilting, you might want to get a bigger one, but for the different projects that we'll be doing, this size is fine. The other tool I like to use is this disappearing felt marker to trace my patterns with. That way you don't have to worry about a stray trace mark showing up in your finished article. You can get some markers that you can erase the marks with water, but I just find that that's another step that's kind of a pain in the neck to do. And I've never had, you can try it on fabric if you want to make sure it'll disappear, but I've never had an instance where the marker didn't disappear. The other thing I'd like to mention is when you're tracing your patterns, I usually trace mine from paper onto something like this, and this is a postcard that I got in the mail, and it's easier to trace with something like this. Or also sometimes if you buy a shirt or some kind of a blouse, there'll be a thin cardboard insert. You can save that type of thing and use it to trace your patterns on. And of course you're going to need some cutting tools. These are two scissors that I like to use. Now this is a pair of scissors by Fiskar, and it has titanium blades. It is a very sharp scissors, so be careful when you use it and definitely keep it out of the hands of children. The other type of scissors that I like to use is a small pair of scissors that has a curved blade on it. Again, it's a pair of Fiskar scissors, and it's just easier when you're cutting out shapes that have different curves in it. The other thing is, when you have fabric scissors, you want to make sure you don't use them to cut paper with, because that can very quickly dull the blades of your scissors. If you get into something like quilting where you have to cut out a lot of shapes for your quilting pattern, you might want to get a rotary cutter like this. But for most of the projects that we do, having fabric scissors like these will be good. And of course you're going to need some hand sewing needles. You can always get a pack of needles like this, which is a pack of different types of hand sewing needles. The only thing you have to keep in mind is if you're going to use some thicker thread, the eye of the needle has to be big enough for the thread to go through. And if you use some of the very thick embroidery thread, you're probably also going to have to get some embroidery needles that have a thicker opening there for your thread to go through. The other thing that you want to keep in mind is you have to have, if you're going to bead with size 10 seed beads, that you have to have a needle that's thin enough to go through the opening in the middle of the bead. And beads come in sizes. The common, just general hand sewing needles are sharps, and they come in size 1 to 12. And also you can get some betweens, which are quilting needles, and again they come in size 1 to 12, and they're just shorter than the sharps are. So the size of needle represents the diameter of the needle. So if you buy one needle, that means that it's the thickest needle, and then a size 12 would be the thinnest needle. And you need at least a size 9 to go through the center of a size 10 seed bead. Now the other thing is, there are also fine beading needles available. And I find, especially if you're going to do beading like I do, one bead at a time, in between regular hand stitching, that this really isn't the best needle to use because it's long and thin, it bends easily, and it's really better if you're going to do a lot of beading or put more beads on at once rather than one at a time. Now, of course, the last thing that you're going to use is a pin cushion. And you can get all different types of pin cushions. And this is one that I made, and Sometime I'm going to have to put the pattern on the website. But we do have a pattern for a cuff pin cushion. You might want to download that and make it for yourself. Also, you're going to need some pins. When I make smaller projects, I prefer to use pins that are shorter and have a smaller head. But there's all kinds of pins out there available. You can come to our website and get an instruction sheet that goes along with this video. I've added a link on the instruction sheet where you can go and download a chart that talks about different types of needles and what they're used for. Come to our website often. We have plenty of ideas and designs to share with you at twoluckycats.com.